21st century challenge in my mind is to escape last century's idea that progress is this ever-rising line of growth, because it isn't. This century, progress is coming into balance to meet the needs of all within the means of the planet. That balancing act is the most exciting adventure we're going to go on this century. It requires so much innovation. We are thriving as part of an extraordinary living, holistic system. And if we can create enterprises that are actually participants and members of that, they will thrive along with us. Systems thinking is the key to smart 21st century thinking. Economics has been obsessed with growth for almost 100 years, but the reasons for that go back a long way. Back in the 1870s, a bunch of economists wanted to make economics a science, as reputable as physics. And so one step in doing that was to remove any apparent goal or values from economics, because science doesn't have goals. So they stripped away any mention of what the economy was for. Well, as any cuckoo knows, an empty nest needs to be filled. And into that empty nest of value-free economics came the goal of endless growth. And it's been structured financially, politically, and socially into our economies so that today they depend upon demand and expect unending growth. We're addicted to growth. And if we can't free ourselves from that addiction, we don't stand a chance of meeting the needs of all within the means of the planet. I can easily explain doughnut economics to a 5-year-old because every 5-year-old has seen a donut with a hole in the middle. So in the hole in the middle, that's the place where people are falling short on life's essentials, where people don't have the food, health, education, schooling, housing that they need. And every person in the world has a claim to have those essentials of life so we can all lead lives of dignity and opportunity. So we want to get everybody out of the donut's hole, into the donut itself. But we can't overshoot the outer crust of this donut either, because there we put so much pressure on this extraordinary living planet that we begin to kick it out of kilter. We cause climate change, acidify the oceans, a hole in the ozone layer, we destroy biodiversity. A successful 21st century enterprise is one which will be distributive and regenerative by design in the very essence of what it does. So it'll be distributive in that it shares the value generated far more equitably with everyone in the community, from suppliers and customers and employees and creators who make that product. But also it'll be regenerative in that it works with and within the cycles of the living world, no longer cutting against Earth, drawing from her sources and spewing waste into her sinks, but actually working with the cycles of carbon, of hydrogen, of oxygen, realizing that a successful enterprise will be one that is part of these cycles of the living world. Now, the real exciting challenge is, can we create an economy and enterprises that actually step up to that opportunity? Can we create business models that actually take advantage of the fact that for the first time our core technologies are asking us to create distributive economies? To me, that's the exciting challenge, and I think that nature works like this, and this is exactly why nature thrives, been thriving for 3.8 billion years, because nature is an ecosystem of resource use that is continually being reused and shared. And if we take that amazing metaphor from nature and then bring it into the design of business, we realize that if we enrich our suppliers and share with our customers, that creates an ecosystem in which everybody in that thrives. A smart entrepreneur will see the effects, not only the financial ones, but the invisible social and environmental ones, and harness them and recognize there are leverage points and ways of bringing these effects in to create reinforcing and virtuous feedback loops that actually benefit the enterprise, benefit the community, and benefit the living world. People sometimes ask me, when is this donut economy ever going to begin? It's already begun. The seeds of it are everywhere. What we need now is to amplify them, to show that this is the beginnings of a new paradigm, that they're already living it out, and then to join them up so that their forces and their energy becomes an irresistible network surging up from below. And I profoundly believe that we're never going to make the transition by fighting the old reality. The way to do it is to create a new model that's irresistible and leave the old one behind. Which is why I'm excited about the examples we can see around us of people who are already doing this. But it needs business models that unlock that thinking that enable people to be financed, governed, networked, and purposed in a way that is aligned with the design potential they can already see. We are witnessing an extraordinary psychological drama in the transformation of enterprise. We see many new entrepreneurs who ask one driving question, which is, how many benefits can we layer into and generate from the way we design this thing? But so often when they want to get their enterprise, their initiative, their idea financed, they have to go back to the financial mindset that asks one question: how much financial value can I extract from this? So you've got this 21st century generative mindset, the 20th century financial extractive mindset. We are witnessing a drama between these two, and it has to come out on the side of the generative. We need to reinvent finance so it is aligned with the generative potential that designers can already see and make happen. The work of Marjorie Kelly, I think, is really helpful in seeing what I call corporate psychotherapy underlying this, because the DNA of a company can be understood through 5 of its characteristics. Firstly, what's its purpose? Is its purpose to have the biggest market share in the sector or to contribute to a thriving world? How is it governed? What are the metrics by which its employees are called to account in their weekly meeting? And how does it report to people in terms of the impact it's having in the world? What about its networks? Is it aligned with suppliers and customers and competitors who agree and understand its values and help bring them about, or actually still held back by others who aren't aligned with its purpose and they're fighting it at every turn? What about how it's owned by shareholders or by employees, by short-termism or by impact investment? Totally different, because that ultimately determines how it's financed. These 5 criteria, purpose, governance, networks, ownership, and finance, are like the DNA of an enterprise. And if we don't realign them towards 21st century vision, there'll always be a schizophrenic pull at the heart of an enterprise. So what is it that makes business change its mindset and be part of a transformation? Sometimes I think business leaders see that the old model they've been following doesn't work anymore, and so they begin to incrementally change towards something more positive. But the real stories and examples that I've witnessed when I've managed to talk to the CEO and ask, well, how is it you created a company like this? Quite frankly, it's come from a moment of epiphany, of realizing that there is a greater purpose and something far bigger to be part of. Whether it's a CEO or a small startup or a team of cooperative owners, they can start to drive a completely different business model, but it always starts with purpose.